the Church of Scientology is so afraid of.
This is SPTV. Welcome back, everybody, for more SPTV coverage of the Danny Masterson criminal trial live in Los Angeles. And this morning, not only did the people rest their case, but so did the defense. The defense did not call any of the witnesses they were planning on calling, including Detective Vargas. Now, out of context, people may not know what that means, and to be honest, I don't want to get into it, but Detective Vargas was a pretty big part of the first trial. And the defense was sort of threatening to call him because it looked like the prosecution was not going to call him. And then at the last minute, the defense decided not to call him either. I am told that the reason Vargas was not called to testify this time is because, unfortunately, I feel bad I feel bad for the guy. He got COVID twice and has experienced long COVID symptoms and cannot remember a thing. And so putting him up on the stand would have been pointless. Really, a real strange development. Okay, but let me tell you what actually did happen this morning, because a lot of interesting stuff happened in the very brief morning session. We are out of court for the day. We are actually out of court for many days. The judges decided to give everybody Monday off to fully prepare for closing arguments, and closing arguments will be 9 a.m. sharp on Tuesday. But here's what happened, because a lot of stuff did happen. Okay, highlights. The day started with the judge asking the prosecution and the defense if they had come to an agreement regarding calling Tony Ortega to the stand to testify for the defense against Kathleen J. So for those of you who may be coming into this fresh and don't know the context here, Kathleen J is a woman who testified yesterday about being drugged and raped by Danny Masterson in Toronto in the year 2000 at a movie wrap party. Absolutely devastating testimony from Kathleen J yesterday. She's not one of the charged victims in the case. My understanding is that she's testifying as a prior bad acts witness. The sexual assault of Kathleen J occurred 2 to 3 years before the rapes that Danny Masterson is on trial for. And I got to tell you, I know Kathleen's not one of the charged victims, but if I was one of those jury members, I'd be sitting there going, there's no way we just heard Kathleen J's testimony and we're going to pretend like we're not sure whether Danny did these other three. That's what would be going through my mind. I know that's not necessarily how you're supposed to do it. I'm just saying that's what would be going through my mind. That is how devastating the testimony was. Okay, however, the material that the defense attorneys used to try to impeach Kathleen's testimony was an article published by Tony Ortega about 7 months ago that purported to be an interview with Kathleen Jenkins. Now, we learned for the first time yesterday from Kathleen's own testimony that she did not, in fact, know, understand, or realize that the phone call she got from Tony Ortega 7 months ago was an on-the-record discussion that would be published. According to her testimony, she had no idea the information she was sharing with Tony about her attack was for the purposes of publication. She said she did not know that the information with Tony was going to be made public until he sent her a link to the article that he had published the following morning. She testified that she contacted him to ask him to remove the article, to take it down, because she did not want her coworkers to see the article, but Tony refused to take the article down. Now, Tony Ortega published a statement on his blog in response to all of this morning, and also in response to one other thing. And in his statement, he did not deny the fact that he spoke with Kathleen about her attack without telling her that they were on the record and without informing her that he intended to make the information public. He also did not deny that he refused to take the article down when the rape victim asked him to. So there's that. Now, during the cross-examination of Kathleen, she claimed that Tony had misquoted her and misrepresented her statements in his article. She was having to claim this because the defense was using Tony's article to impeach some of the things that she was saying on the stand. And she said, no, it's not my memory of the statement of the events that have changed. Tony just got what I said wrong. So the defense yesterday served Tony Ortega with a subpoena to get him to essentially testify against Kathleen and say that his reporting was correct and it was Kathleen who was now changing her statements or misremembering it. Tony's attorney sent a letter to the court claiming certain journalistic protections. The judge actually said to Tony in open court, your lawyer has gotten it a bit wrong, or he's relying on the wrong statutes. The protections your lawyer is claiming only apply to unpublished material. It doesn't apply to published material. So you would have to testify. However, she said the California Constitution makes it very clear that the journalist has 5 days to respond to a subpoena. And so she said to the defense and the prosecution, if you guys cannot get together and come up with some stipulation that would prevent you from needing Tony to testify, I'm going to call a recess and we're going to postpone court until Wednesday. Tony can come back and testify Wednesday. But she essentially said, if you make me do that, you're completely incompetent. She goes, I've read everything at issue here. You guys could very easily come up with a stipulation. This should be very easy to resolve, but I'm more than happy to leave it up to you. You can't resolve it. We'll be back Wednesday. Anyway, nobody wanted to postpone trial. They did agree to some stipulations. Here are the stipulations they agreed to. And here's why it could be a problem. We'll see. You never know. Okay, so Cohen reads out loud the stipulation that they agreed will be given to the jury. On October 17th, 2021, Kathleen J. made the following statements to Mr. Ortega in a published article. 1, she remembered that it was Masterson who chatted her up and offered her a drink, and the next thing she remembered was waking up in a hotel room in terrible pain. That stipulation is a problem because on the stand yesterday, Kathleen J. testified to many memories between the time that she was handed a drink and the time that she woke up the next morning. So that's contradicted by what was published in Tony's article. Stipulation 2. When Kathleen J.'s husband asked her why she broke down suddenly while watching the movie Dracula 2000, she could not bring herself to tell him what had occurred at that time, but she did in fact tell him years later. Well, yesterday on the stand, Kathleen testified that she did actually tell her husband while they were watching the movie why she had just suddenly broken down and had a panic attack. So again, a contradiction there. Stipulation number 3, she said that perhaps Masterson and others raped her. That is actually not inconsistent with what she testified to on the stand yesterday, except yesterday it was a little more nebulous. She said, I remember feeling that there were other people in the room, but I do not remember seeing them, so I can't say for sure. So on the stand yesterday, she certainly did not say for sure that anyone other in addition to Danny had raped her, but it does sound like, at least in the article, that she had said that previously, which she claims she did not. Stipulation number 4, that she stated Gerard Butler, the famous actor, is the one who with others invited her up to his suite. Kathleen J. claims 100% she never said that, never would have said that. And yet that is in the article Tony published. So, these stipulations, these are what's going to be read into the jury as uncontested facts. These are things that the prosecution has agreed to stipulate to. Like, we're not going to argue this. We're going to agree to call these facts. Well, according to the witness, these aren't facts, but these have to be stipulated to. Otherwise, we would postpone for 5 days. Okay, that was all that. The stipulations are done. That matter was put to rest. Tony's not going to be called to testify. Kathleen J. is not going to be called back to testify. And neither is her husband. So her husband was going to be up next. That's not going to happen. Okay, the next interesting item. This was some very weird drama. Danny Masterson, for the first time in this entire trial, lost his cool. He dropped the facade of being the nice little boy who just sits there quietly and shows no emotion, and he started having, there was a fracas. Is it fracas or is it fracas between Danny and a gentleman sitting in the first row of the gallery? This became evident that something was going on when Danny started leaning. I saw this happening. Started leaning forward, going like, "What's your deal? What's the problem, man? What's your problem?" He was talking to the husband of Jane Doe 1, who was in court this morning. So this matter was brought to the attention of the bailiff. It was brought to the attention of the attorneys. It was brought to the attention of the judge. Everyone went up to a sidebar for a while. And then the first verbal recognition of all this was the judge announcing to the courtroom that Apparently, Mr. Masterson is feeling intimidated by the gaze of a gentleman in the gallery. And then I could not, it was hilarious to me that a couple of the younger female paralegals working for the defense team jumped up to Danny's defense to shield his delicate eyes from the blistering glaze of the gentleman in the gallery. The irony was not lost on me. I mean, considering what we've heard about Danny in this trial, and how he likes to use a blistering gaze of his own when he's drugging women, preparing to rape them. Crazy shit. Okay, so then what happened is that I actually heard one of the bailiffs. I was close enough when one of the bailiffs came over to speak to Jane Doe 1's husband, and the bailiff actually said, "Oh yeah, you can stare at whoever you want to stare at. There's nothing wrong with that. Just got to make sure you're not making any faces or mouthing any words or anything. But you can stare at whoever you want for as long as you want. There's nothing wrong with looking at someone. I mean, you're allowed to be here. There was actually no issue with that." And then when the judge was saying out loud, was addressing the husband of Jane Doe 1 directly, very nicely, I might add. She was not admonishing him. She was not scolding him. In fact, she wasn't even assuming that what he was being accused of was true. He was like, "Sir, I just, Mr. Masterson apparently feels intimidated by your gaze." And he goes, "Your Honor, I can't help how Mr. Masterson feels." And I thought the judge was going to get pissed off, like he was talking back or something. And she did the total opposite. She almost acted quite amused, and was like, "Yep, you're totally right. You know, look, you have every right to be here. I just want to make sure everyone in the gallery understands that, just don't be distracting or don't make gestures or facial expressions or faces. But I want you to know you're more than welcome to stay. There's no problem. Just want to make sure everyone understands that." That was really funny. So, and then a short while later, Jane Doe 1's husband did actually leave the gallery, and the judge was so concerned that he might have thought he was being kicked out that she even addressed one of the attorneys sitting next to him and said, "Oh, hey, I just want to make sure that he understands he wasn't being asked to leave." So she was being really protective. I think she knew it was Jane Doe 1's husband, and I think that actually was even announced at one point. So anyway, that was interesting. The first time in the entire case that Danny has lost his cool was under the steely gaze of Jane Doe 1's husband, who's a big guy. I'm not going to lie. And I actually do wonder if Danny even knows that it's him. Like, I'm not even sure at the time that Danny knew who it was, but who knows? Okay, let's see. Then the next thing noteworthy is that Jane Doe 1's Marcy's law attorney, a gentleman by the name of Dominic Cognata, aka Mr. Marcy's Law. He's really good at what he does, and he's not representing Jane Doe to my understanding, in the civil trial. He's only representing her rights under Marcy's Law, actually in this criminal trial. Marcy's Law is a set of laws that are on the books in California, particularly to protect rights of victims of sexual assaults. Okay, here is the statement. Dominic showed up to be heard by the court, and this is in respect to the evidence it was found, the evidence, the redacted evidence file that the DA turned over to the defense. It was found out this week that almost that entire file is now in possession of Scientology's attorney, Vicky Podboreski. And this is a huge deal. This is a huge deal. You don't share discovery in criminal trials the way you do in a civil case. So anyway, here's the statement that Dominic made to the court. He says, as this court is aware, there's been a leak related to DA discovery regarding this matter, and specifically regarding Jane Doe 1 to Vicky Podboreski and Scientology. And Vicky is Scientology's attorney, not a Scientologist herself. This leak is a clear violation under the California Constitution, Article 1, Section 28B, 1 and 2. Throughout this trial, Jane Doe 1 has stated multiple times that she is terrified of potential threats. This release puts Jane Doe 1 and her family at risk and shows the entity that has been allegedly harassing her and threatening her is in possession of documents that they shouldn't have had in the first place. Everyone, including this court, defendant's counsel, and district attorney's office, knows of the alleged threats by Scientology. This leak is further example of the tactics Scientology is willing to take to protect their own and harass victims of sexual assault. Based on the limited information provided, we would like to ask for the discovery that was leaked to Scientology and Vicky, strictly regarding Jane Doe 1. Additionally, in order to protect evidence and Jane Doe 1's personal rights under the California Constitution, we respectfully request this court to issue an order for preservation of evidence against Vicky Podboreski and all defense counsels pertaining to any and all emails related to communications between Vicky Podboreski and defense to guarantee no spoliation of evidence. Dominic Cagnata, Mr. Marcy's Law. He didn't. The statement is not signed that way. It's just an awesome name. Okay, so then now let's take a look at some of the feedback that was provided on this subject by Philip Cohen and Sean Hawley, the defense attorneys, and by the DA team. Okay, Sean Hawley says, we stand by a position that we have not provided the information. The judge says, does we mean you and Mr. Cohen? And Sean Hawley says, yes. Also, there was no protective order in place, and that Mr. Tom Mesereau, Danny Masterson's previous attorney, asked for an order, and the DA didn't agree to one. Nothing untoward has occurred, and Ms. Podboreski is willing to come to court to say so. And then judge says, did Ms. Podboreski tell you how she came into possession of the discovery? And then Sean Hawley suggested that maybe it was disclosed in a civil proceeding. There's no leak, nothing nefarious as far as we've been able to tell. And then Mr. Mueller, the Deputy DA Mueller says, we'd like to reserve statements at this time. It's very troubling that in the midst of this trial, that the people's redacted discovery, a large portion of it is turned over to Ms. Podboreski or anyone else representing Scientology, and ends up talking to LAPD Chief Michael Moore with certain requests regarding witnesses in this case. I just find that to be a violation on a number of grounds. Sean Hawley says, I don't think anything was turned over during trial. I think if anything was turned over, it was before trial, and it was redacted. Mueller says one of the letters from Ms. Podboreski indicates documents of the people's records were recently obtained by Ms. Podboreski. It is troubling. The judge says the court did not issue a protective order. No, I'm sorry. She says the court did issue a protective order. The court will issue a preservation order. And she asks Dominic, Mr. Marcy's Law, to draw up the order that he wants signed. The judge continues to say, it's an interesting issue. The discovery provided was solely in a criminal case. The law is there to protect victims and witnesses. With that said, the right for the accused to obtain discovery is not absolute, and the court has wide latitude to govern it. The California Constitution under Marcy's Law does hold that the court can protect a victim from harassment through the criminal justice process. So she goes, the court had gone through days of subpoenas from the defense asking for private communications, and the court found the defense was not entitled to them. The defense could not overcome that. To the extent that there might have been material that does cause the court concern, to the extent that there might have been that material that does cause the court concern. Okay, so anyway, this goes back and forth a little bit. The judge asks, are you referring, will the district attorney's office be referring this matter to law enforcement? He said, we're still making a decision on that. She asks, will there be any referrals made to the state bar? And he says, we're not prepared to make any comment on that yet. Sean Hawley reiterates, Ms. Podboreski is willing to come to court. Is there a day she could come to address this? And then the judge says, the judge basically says, we're going to revisit this issue after closing statements and once the jury begins deliberations. So perhaps we won't just have a whole bunch of dead days while the jury's deliberating. We will be able to hopefully dig into this evidentiary hearing to find out how this evidence in this case, the evidence file, the discovery file, leaked to Scientology. It's actually a pretty big freaking deal. That's it, guys. That is the update. Okay, it looks like I've got a helpful little elf in the comment section starring some comments. I don't know who that is. It's probably Mark or Claire, but I don't know. Okay, so let me see. Devin Lara says, I'm so nervous. I only live a few hours from Los Angeles, so I thought about going to watch with you, but I can't take another hung jury or worse than not guilty verdict. Thank you so much for going there for us. Well, thank you, Devin Lara. Yeah, it would be great to have you come down. Closing statements would be Tuesday, so if you wanted to just come down for the closing arguments, I mean, more than welcome to, that's for sure. I predict the courtroom might be kind of packed on Tuesday. So if you want to come, might want to get there early. Martin Jones, hello, Aaron. You are a star of humanity. Please find a soul to give you a hug. It's hard to do what you've done. Well, thank you, Martin. That's very kind. I'm not sure it's totally warranted, but kind nonetheless. Thank you very much. Gwendolyn Daly, witnessing this trial secondhand through your lens is the highlight of mine and many others' day. Thank you for the stellar coverage. Well, it has been a hell of a learning experience for me to be here at the trial. It has been, I have enjoyed the process of being able to explain what's happened in court in a way that's maybe easier to connect with than just reading the word, a written word on a page. I think it's been valuable, and I might do the same thing on other Scientology related trials. There's actually another trial coming up in June. Riza Islam is on trial for, I don't know, $3.8 million of fraud. It relates to Scientology. It relates to the Nation of Islam. It could be some wild and crazy stuff. And I might come back out to do that as well. We'll see. Thank you, Gwendolyn Daly. I very, very appreciate it very much. Pitter Pat says, hit the like button, please. Let's see. We got 3,000 people watching. I don't know how many likes we have, but if you're watching right now and you haven't hit that like button, do me a favor and hit that like button. It actually does help send out notifications, or so it seems. John Sistowski, dip it good. Go to Kohl's, and when you get home, I sent you some French dip sauce. Oh my God, my wife sent me a photo of the French dip sauce that you sent. Thank you. That is absolutely hilarious. And I know I haven't been posting photos of it every day, but I have been going to Kohl's every single day for one of those sandwiches because they're just that good. Marcy Naylan, if Church of Scientology creates hate websites for anyone involved in the trial, could there be repercussions against the Church of Scientology? Do you believe there are other victims? Marcy, I not only believe there are other victims, I know there are other victims. I've discussed it in the past. I won't give details right now, but there are. I mean, there's like 7 or 8 victims that I know of. It's wild. Even Scientology is not dumb enough to make hate websites for the victims and the witnesses in this trial. I would bet money on that. There would be repercussions. All right, everyone. So let me see. I do believe that is all we've got. Let me just take one final check here. Oi, 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 oi. Oh, Hopper, any preliminary plans for a chat with your lawyer friend, Zach? 100%. Me and Zach are going to be doing a chat today. Yeah, 100%. It's not scheduled yet, but we will be doing it. All right, everybody, relatively short and sweet compared to the updates I've been doing. Well, I guess my lunch updates are never really more than 30 minutes, so not too bad. So, yeah, more to come later, you guys, but no more new developments until Tuesday. Oh my God, what am I going to do until Tuesday? So, well, so thank you everyone for watching. Thanks to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.